Walking is the most underrated physical activity. While modern-day fitness pushes circuit training and intense HIIT sessions on a pedestal, walking is of great importance. Firstly, it's an easy skill we all possess that doesn't tax our system. Most can walk for hours and still do fine. Walking supports aerobic metabolism, it improves mitochondrial function and builds the base of aerobic fitness one needs to maintain health. Research suggests most modern-day diseases originate from insufficient levels of physical activity. This contributes to 3.2 million deaths yearly, putting inactivity as the fourth leading factor for mortality, which increases mortality risk by 20 to 30%. Walking contributes to something called NEAT, or non-exercise induced thermogenesis, which is the non-training kind of activity that helps you burn trivial amounts of calories which accumulate over the long run. Hopefully, this is sufficient enough to affect weight loss and support metabolic health. Other step counting studies show that physical activity contributes to greater cardiovascular health, body mass index, blood pressure, lipid profiles, etc. This suggests that an incremental increase of 3,000 to 4,000 steps daily can accrue additional health benefits. It seems that the 10,000 steps count slowly become the new standard for sufficient physical activity. But is there any science behind this number? Should you rush out to finish your Fitbit's 9,899 steps to hit the 10K? And while 10,000 steps seems like a magical number, it's not. It's developed due to the Japanese pedometer called Manpo meter, which holds the slogan Manpo K, which means 10,000 steps meter. And funny enough, although it didn't have any scientific backing and it was mostly a marketing trick, a very specific number of steps that's an achievable goal for most humans, it is very close to the optimal step count that science suggests, which is about 7,500 to 9,500 steps for the highest return on investment in terms of getting all those good health benefits. So I was curious to see how many steps I walk on a daily and to see how it fluctuates during the day and during the week, so I invested in a Fitbit health tracker. I started using it and it's very interesting as the watch vibrates when you hit 10,000 steps, giving you that sort of dopamine hit, a badge of honor for many walkers. Which from motivational perspective, I gotta say it works. On a regular day, I always hit the 10K mark with no effort, but it's easier because I work in the gym and I'm constantly moving. I could see this becoming a problem if I have a sedentary job, because on the weekends where I need to sit, edit and analyze things a bit more in depth, I sit and I'm lacking steps. It's actually challenging to hit the 10K on the weekends. First of all, why walking specifically? Well, it's easy, practical, convenient and sustainable. It's the skill that most humans still possess. There's a very low risk of injury or overuse. It doesn't throw your hormones out of whack like an intense exercise does. You don't need a lot of time to recover from it. It prefers to burn fat for fuel instead of glycogen and glucose because it's a low-intensity aerobic activity. It stimulates the aerobic metabolism, meaning you get the cardiovascular health benefits, circulation and oxygen flowing. It improves mitochondrial function and energy creation. It increases metabolic rate without ridiculously spiking your hunger, stress, or appetite increasing hormones. I found out that on heavier work days where I'm in the gym for 9 hours, the schedule is filled out, I'd easily hit 20,000 steps. However, variability is important. It's not about getting all your steps in a day, it's about consistency. So my first change was walking more on weekends. I took my headphones and started listening to podcasts and walk outside. This way I was completing 2 tasks at once, so I didn't just walk to get my steps in. So if we hop onto the app, we can see how many steps I took this week. And you can see that on a weekly basis, there is about 17,238 steps on an average. So that week I hit my 10K steps every single day. The previous week, you could see that Sundays and Tuesdays, I was lacking a few steps to hit my target, but essentially you can see that 5+ days I am hitting the target, which is nice and interesting to see because having a data measuring device sort of gives you a quantifiable way of measuring how physically active you are or how much you're walking. While 10K isn't the number for most people, it's a good determinant for physical activity in general. 10,000 steps is equivalent to 5 miles or 5 kilometers of walking. It takes about 1 to 2 hours of walking to hit the 10K target, depending on your stride length and step-in speed, of course. Now let's dig into research and see what all those step counting studies have found. So a large follow-up of more than 46,000 people showed mortality rates dropping by 45% in those who achieved the recommended 150 to 300 minutes weekly of moderate activity and 75 to 150 minutes of vigorous intensity exercise. 31% so less of those who didn't meet the recommendations, and 49% so more in those who were more active. Higher step count is inversely associated to the risk of cardiovascular events and premature death. Those with 8.9 thousand steps daily had 40% lower mortality risk compared to those who took half those steps, and those with 9.3 thousand steps daily had 35% lower risk of cardiovascular events compared to 35,000 steps. A cohort study of more than 16,000 elderly women showed that those who averaged 4,400 instead of 2,700 steps a day had lower mortality rates. Mortality rates also progressively decreased to about 7,500 steps daily, slowly leveling out with more walking, close to the cutoff, which is about 7.5 to 9,000 steps daily. Doing a bit more, like a 10K, seems beneficial, so that is why it is a good target. Another study monitored 3,000 Australians over 5 years. Increasing steps from 1,000 to 10,000 daily had 46% lower mortality risk, and increasing steps from 3,000 daily for a sedentary person 5 days a week had a 12% reduction in death or mortality. Lastly, another review with more than 6,000 participants used Fitbit data to see how mortality risk was associated with step count. They found that more walking was linearly inversely correlated with obesity, sleep apnea, GI reflux, and depression. Those who walked more than 8.2 thousand steps daily scored better with a lower incidence of death, and 8 to 9,000 steps were about the cutoff value for the most effective reduction in diabetes and hypertension. So here's for the last bit. Let's see what's my step counter telling me. You can see this week I was averaging about 17,000 steps a day. 2 of these days where I was walking more, so Saturday and Monday, I hit above 20K, and I had 0 days basically below 10K, so I did hit my targets. Now if we go for the previous week, which was a bit weaker, you can see the average is about 13.5K steps, and you can see 2 days, Sunday and Tuesday, that I didn't hit my 10K mark. But what's interesting to me about this is looking at the daily, most of my walking many days is done between 4 to 8 p.m., which is exactly when I'm in the gym working with clients. So I could see this being a problem if I had a sedentary job. That's why one tip for me is, if you are sitting a lot and you need to work at a desk, either install a standing desk where you can shift between standing and sitting, or install a little treadmill below the desk, so that way when you have certain activities that you can do standing or walking, like taking meetings and calls, doing while walking on treadmill placed below the desk. And oh, if you want to check all these studies in depth, make sure you visit our page vitalscend.com, type walking, and you'll see our walking articles with all the studies presented here. Link in description below. For the bullet points, just walk more. It's great for you. It's good for your health. Walking reduces mortality risk and has potent benefits on overall health. 10,000 steps is a popular measure for physical activity that came due to the development of a Chinese pedometer, Manpo meter. This was based on marketing, and at first it didn't have no scientific backing behind, but science is now clear that this is pretty close to the optimal step count that one should take as a measure of general physical activity. Research concludes that about 7.5 thousand to 9,000 steps accrues the most health benefits, after which there is a slight leveling off. But this is what makes 10K a good target. A little bit extra, you get a little bit more benefit. However, you don't need to be walking 30,000 steps a day. Tips to walk more? Well, first of all, take the stairs when you can and skip the elevator. park a bit further, so you need to walk to your office for about 5 to 10 minutes. Walk your dog, do walking meetings, standing desk, invest in one. While you're taking your education, so for example podcasts, go and take a hike or a walk. That's it. 10K is not the magical number, the one-size-fits-all bullet for everyone. However, it is a pretty good measure of general physical activity. Peace out.